Welcome back to the morning mist 99 above and beyond schizophrenia. I am walking. I'll turn my phone this way. I think people like seeing stuff this way. Yeah. So I'm walking right now. And I am at camp. The bus pulling up. So it looks like prison, huh? Like some of the places that I'm in. It looks like prison. In the bushes someplace. So that's where I'm at. And a lot of flies. It's wet. You So this video I want to talk about, that's in the title, paranoia. I wanted to walk down there, but there's so many people down there. So that's fitting, right? That's fitting with the topic of the video. I'm a little paranoid. No, I'm not really. Look at that, huh? There's flies flying around. It's just that. Please. Oh, here comes the cavalry. The people coming from work, pulling up. So, talking about paranoia, and someone asked me to make a video on paranoia. And this is, I just thought about different ways to do this, and usually I don't do videos the way I want to do them. I just do them. But with this, paranoia is a symptom of schizophrenia, right? It's a symptom of schizophrenia, and paranoia is something that we experience. Everyone experiences some kind of paranoia, right? So once you look up the word, there's all kinds of different ways people can experience paranoia, and then there are, this dictionary definition of paranoia. And I don't want to focus so much on that, right? But there are two kind of clinical maybe definitions or distinctions for paranoia. One is paranoid personality disorder. My tongue was skipping a beat. And then there's a paranoia that arises from schizophrenia, right? I think that's what it was saying. So there's a paranoid personality disorder, but with schizophrenia, so that's just the diagnosis, right? So you might not have any other like psychotic symptoms or like hallucinations and so forth that comes with schizophrenia. Although paranoia itself is also a delusion, right? It's called is a paranoid delusion, right? And so it's paranoia there's levels to it, right? There's levels to it. There's the general, like I mentioned earlier, general paranoia that people experience in life. You might just think, for a moment somebody's talking about you or blah blah blah, and you get it cleared up and you're good. You move on, right? There's those little things that we get, and you might suspecting somebody of doing something against you, but it's not something that threatens your life, your day-to-day functioning. It's just a belief, and everything else is good. You can function and so forth, right? And so that's one, the normal kind of way that people can experience it. But with, I would suspect, paranoid personality disorder and the paranoia as the delusion as a symptom of schizophrenia, it's a lot more intense. It's a lot more intense. Uh, it's it is a feeling of being threatened, right? It's a feeling of um, like a conspiracy, or uh, you know, violation of privacy, right? Sometimes we feel like people have insight into our thoughts, into our past, into our present, even into our future, right? And so this causes a lot of distress, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. And these aren't just normal, right? Like there's not everything with these disorders are intense, right? And I like to give people who don't understand this the example of having a dream, where a nightmare, right? Where you are in terror, right? And maybe you're being chased by something or whatever, right? Uh, and you wake up in sweat, you know, relieved that you've woken up from this horrible nightmare. You can rest, your heartbeat slows, and it was just a dream. Oh my gosh, thank you. Oh, thank God. You know, with this kind of stuff, there is no just relief like that. It is persistent stress, right? And it's a nightmare that does not end, right? You can't wake up from this like that. So that's kind of what these emotions, the emotions that you'd have in that kind of nightmare scenario, is what we carry constantly throughout the day, right? And so that's the example of what we face, and why it's so difficult uh, to just move on, like in the regular uh, paranoia that people face, right? So, um, so one of the things that the definition would say is the buses again, a bunch of buses carrying a load of campers. One of the things the definition says about paranoia is that it is you feel threatened, uh, and like you suspicious of people and so forth, that they're trying to get you, to harm you, poison you, whatever, but there's no proof of this, right? And oh, here comes somebody. This isn't entirely true. I don't agree with that definition, or yeah, with that way that they put that in this. I think this is WebMD I was looking at, and I don't agree with that because it's incorrect, right? And I'll tell you why. And I know people will be like, "Well, it's a delusion, man. It's a delusion. Of course, there's no evidence." But you're only looking at it from one side, right? And the definition, and this is where a lot of doctors and people mess up, is that they're looking at it from one side, and that's the side that they're on, right? And so, even though you might not see any evidence of cause for the person to feel what they're feeling, and you can try to reason rationally with them, but the very reason why reason or rationality doesn't work is because that person does have evidence. They 100% do have evidence, right? They can tell you all the evidence they have, but you won't see it. But they see it. They can touch it. They can taste it. It's that real to their senses. So there's very much evidence because you see it and you hear it, right? And so these manifest through sometimes it is hallucinations, through visual hallucinations, right, through auditory hallucinations or just through perceptional, not in the way that these hallucinations work, but through the thought process, right? The thought process. So, for example, I could be thinking something, and maybe it's a thought that it's maybe I would not want somebody else to hear, and then as soon as that thought comes into my mind, somebody would cough, and that my thought would be like, oh my gosh, they're in my head, they know what I'm thinking, and then something else would come along to verify that thought that I'm having right now, that it is true. Now, somebody who has maybe auditory hallucination would hear that person say, yes, when I think that, are they in my head? And you'll hear a, that's right. So somebody who may not have those hallucinations would hear maybe them bang a sound, right? It's like your thoughts would you would think that they would do something to show you that they're in your head, and sometimes you'll get a response on that manner, right? And so it gives feedback that yes, they are in your head. And this can happen not just once, or with one person, but with multiple people throughout the day, right? And now the question though is that person, is it just a perceptual issue, or is that person also experiencing auditory hallucinations? And that's a tricky one, because it very well may be auditory hallucinations that they just don't understand, right? And the only way to prove that is to ask the person, hey, did you just cough? Or did you just bang that locker? And it, depending on their answers, because if they say no, then you're going to think they're a liar. Like, I know you banged that damn locker. I know you're coughing, man. Whenever I think that thought, you're coughing. You're banging that locker. I know you're in my head. That's the thought, right? That's going to be the thought, because you're already feeling threatened and anxious and feeling that they are lying to you. So it doesn't matter what they say, right? And if they do say, yeah, admit it, yeah, they did cough, then you can actually understand that maybe it's not a auditory hallucination, right? If you can believe them. But that'll give you some understanding, right? But if the person denies it, then you're going to say they're lying, right? But if you have awareness that there is about the condition, then that can give you more insight into what exactly it is which you're facing, right? So because you can use that to build up your foundation and to understand the symptoms that you're facing and struggling with. So that it can work in that regard. But paranoia is a very difficult thing, because the more you buy into it, the more feedback you get. So it feeds off your perception, your belief. Right? And this is what a lot of people don't understand, is right, your mind is actually what your belief in the thing is actually what encourages it, right? But it's hard to not believe in it, because when there's so much evidence of its existence and its reality, then it's very difficult to cut that connection and attention to it. But that is what we must do, right? So medically, they'd probably say it's some chemicals and all that stuff, which that's true. And but also it's sometimes it doesn't make sense, because they'll tell you to eat this and meditate and mindfulness and stuff. Maybe it doesn't cure you, but it'll offer you some relief, and that's true, right? It definitely does help you, but it won't give you any lasting stability, right? And because if you don't understand what it is that's happening, and even if eating good and exercising helps you, and That's something that people are talking about right now, is diet and so forth, and that's great, but it doesn't help you continue to stand in confidence, because the moment you start to eat bad, you start to fall off your diet or stop your exercising, and then what happens? It comes back. Then what do? You just become overran by it, right? You're overcome. And you're gonna lose yourself again to it. So the best way to overcome this is to understand what it is you're struggling against, and how to build your mind up, how to face it, and break through it, and come through on the other side. Because once you do that and you rise above it, you can continue to stand above it. You're not dependent on any kind of thing that can fall through, right? Diet, you can mess up your diet, right? Exercise, you might not have time to exercise or whatever, right? And even so, even if you're exercising and dieting, then what happens if the stress comes through? So there's so many factors to consider, because stress is also something that uh, encourages the anxiety. And when anxiety gets worse, the paranoia gets worse, right? And vice versa. When the paranoia gets worse, the anxiety gets worse, the stress gets worse. So there's all feedback between all these different emotions or energies, right? It's just everything just flows, right? And one thing encourages the other, right? And so it's very it can be very confusing, uh, distressing, and it seems quite hopeless, especially when this paranoia involves family and friends. And oftentimes with schizophrenia, it does involve people you trust, people you love, people in your home, and it makes it that much more unbearable, because there's not many places you can run to find peace, right? So the very place of safety that you would think you have in your home, it becomes a prison, right? It becomes a torture chambers. It becomes hell, and so you want to just lock yourself in your room and not to deal with anybody, and that's also another problem, right? The very thing that these symptoms make you want to do, such as paranoia, to isolate yourself, to run, and to want to escape, is the very thing that you need to go against, right? And this is where it becomes difficult, because people often just want peace. People just often want relief, and they want it now. And that becomes another way to put pressure on your mind, pressure on your senses, pressure on your heart, pressure on that the symptoms uses to cause more stress in your life, and just makes itself worse. So you have to take an opposite mind, right? You have to take an opposite mind, and it's not an easy thing to do, because we are been taught that life should be, we should just, have a certain life, and experience things a certain way. And when things don't go our way, then we fall apart and we don't know what to do. And we just want things to return back to normal, so we can continue our normal life just like everybody else. And that we'll call happy and a good life. Unfortunately, we don't always get what we want. And life is more than that, right? It is vastly more than that. And we are getting an experience um, lesson in that. And so the lesson is what we don't want to learn, because it's very painful, it's very difficult. And I know that firsthand, because I had to go through a lot of hell to finally come back to this very spot of um, facing the things that I wanted to escape from. And that's really what we have to do with this illness, is this symptom, is we have to face it head on. We have to use our thinking, and uh, we have to challenge the very things that we believe. And it's going to cost something. It's going to cost you for you to sacrifice something that you hold dear to you, something that you want to protect, something that you've kept and carried with you, some things actually that you've kept and carried with you all this time. And but these things are things that have weighed you down. They have depressed you, oppressed you, suppressed you, and choking the light out of you. And these things are fear. You have to you have to surrender your fear, right? You have to give it up. Your doubts, you have to give that up. Your impatience, you have to give that up. Your whatever confusion, whatever resistance that you have to struggle, whatever resistance that you have to facing difficulties, resistance that you have to wanting life easy, to wanting to win this without struggling, to wanting to win this by just eating something or just taking a pill or whatever. Not that I'm against that. I support it. I support that too. But people just want the cure. When will they make a cure already? But there is no cure, so you can't just pop a pill, right, and be done with it. And if but anyway, so that's really what it is, right? You have to be willing to face this thing in a way that is intentional, focused, and conscious. You have to look at it. You have to take it apart. Why are you reacting this way? Why are you afraid of people reading your thoughts, people knowing your history, people seeing you naked? Every dirty, dark part of your mind, right? And so you have to really be okay with being exposed, walking naked in front of the entire world. And the shame that you feel, you must put it down. The guilt that you feel for your past actions, you must put that down as well. You have to learn to forgive yourself, right? And if you feel like people are in your mind violating your privacy, that causes you anxiety, making you paranoid, distrustful, then you have to learn to love. You have to learn to forgive. And those that make your heart shake, you step towards them, not away from them. How's your day? How's the weather? Whatever conversation you want to have. How you enjoying the summer, the winter, the fall, whatever it is, just don't run from it. Step forward, step into it with a willing spirit, a willing mind, a ready attitude, patient, perseverant, determined. It's not when will this end, or why is this happening to me? Why me? It's why not me? Why shouldn't this happen to me? And I will step forward and embrace life, give thanks always, right? Not so that it will end, even if it lasts till 120. I will not let up. I will not be afraid. I will not curse my life, curse my existence, curse God. I will praise God. I will thank God. I will be thankful, right? Because it's an opportunity for you. Why not, right? Embrace life, man. That's the way. If you can live like that, if you can embrace that energy, there's a reason why you have to go this way. I'm not going to get into it right now because this video is way longer than I want it to be. I know how this stuff works, man. So it's there's a reason why you have to respond this way, right? It's not just do it, and there's a reason behind it, and I'm not going to get into it right now. But if you can embrace that mindset, then ultimately you will step right through this on the other side of it, and all that nonsense will stop, and you won't even know it. You won't realize it. You'll just continue to live your life until one moment you're going to realize, the heck, everything is good. And it's, you will escape from that mind, that paranoia, those other symptoms of schizophrenia, right? You just have to be able to be open and exposed and realize that, you know what, you have to shine the light on the dark areas of your heart, because a lot of these things that makes us anxious, like paranoia, what breeds in this environment, is that we want to keep dark places hidden. We don't want to show what we're ashamed of, what we did in the past, how we thought or we think, or what we, what ways that we conduct ourselves and so forth. So we want to keep those things hidden because we're ashamed, and we don't want no one to know about the darkness. We don't even want to look at it, but we have to be the ones to shine the light on it, because otherwise it becomes like a sore, and the symptoms will always press on that sore, right? It'll reach in your closet and pull out that skeleton that you don't want no one to see. But if you were to just open your freaking closet, man, and say, this is what it is, I'm not talking about to the world, but to yourself, acknowledge it. This is what I've done. This is where I've been. I'm not proud of some of this stuff. I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of it, but also I'm not going to allow this to destroy me and to make me feel less than, right? Because you are human beings. Humans fail. We all fail. We all make mistakes. That's par for the course when it comes to being a human, right? So once we can acknowledge these things, then we can reconcile with our own heart to where we're no longer afraid and ashamed. And so when somebody touches that spot, you're going to say, so what? It's healed already. You know what I mean? You already made peace with it. And if I touch it, I made peace with it and it's healed, what the heck am I going to be concerned about if somebody else touches it, right? And so that's one of the things that continues to hurt us, is that we don't make peace inside of our own hearts. We don't shine a light on the darkness ourselves. Instead, other people, through the symptoms, will shine a light on it, and that makes us so panicky because we want to keep it hidden. We want to suppress it. Don't suppress it, right? Once you shine a light on it, you look at it, you acknowledge it, yeah, let it go. And now, if you're experiencing these thought broadcasting and so forth, and people touching on these things and whatever it is that might cause you anxiety, you have to bring those up too. It doesn't have just to be thought broadcasting. Whatever it is that's making you shake, making you lack self-confidence and so forth, you have to acknowledge those things, bring them forward, and then you have to step forward, right? You have to step forward through them, right? And one of the things I did to when I felt people were reading my mind and picking on my shameful parts and so forth, man, I went and asked a girl for a number, knowing that she's in my head, man, and I went because I didn't want to do it. It made my heart just. I did it anyways. Why? Because I didn't want to do it. But there's value in this, in challenging yourself to do things that make you stressed, that makes you afraid. That's safe. It's not going to cause. I'm not talking about jumping off a bridge or doing anything stupid, But that's one way I did to kind of strengthen myself, right? And then it's like, yeah. So what happened? What happens? Are you gonna say yes? Or are you gonna say no? She said no at the time, but if she said yes, that would have been a real problem, though. But that would have been the real problem if she had said yes. Because then I'm like, what am I gonna do with it? Like, I'm still tripped up, man. Like, but that would have been a good experience. But that came afterwards, right? That came afterwards. But everything is a growing lesson. Everything is meant to challenge you and to enhance you. And the more you practice stepping into the uncomfortable with a willing, intentional, purposeful mind, then you grow, you benefit from it, right? And so the less it's going to shake you. But as long as you're afraid of everything, then everything's going to terrify you. Every damn shadow you're going to jump at, and it's going to worsen. So that's the nature of paranoia, right? And that's We can talk about this for a good long time. But yeah, that's where it is. And but I think we can do this. We can definitely overcome it. We can definitely uh, rise above it, if we become mindful in what we're about, what we want, and to wake up every day with a mindset and an attitude that is ready and willing to take on life. Not because something or path is laid out and easy and we can go through it mindlessly, but no, because it's difficult. Because there are things we don't want to face. There's dragons and monsters on the path that we're gonna have to deal with that we don't want to, but we're gonna do it anyhow because we have to, right? And we're freaking gonna do it. We're not going to wait for them to come and find us. We're going to go out and we're going to find them. So that's where I've talked about how I went out and made conversations with my mom and my sisters and so forth, because they were, tripping me out. They caused me great anxiety. They were in my head. They were poisoning me. They're doing all kind of stuff, witchcraft on me. And I was hiding from them. So I decided to go out and meet them instead of waiting for them to come to me. Right? I used to go out for walks and say hi to the stranger on the road, and he would read my head and say all this stuff to me. And I'd say hi. Sometimes they wouldn't even look at me, but I had nothing to do with it. I had to extend myself. I'd stop at the bus station and start conversations with people. Why? Because I didn't want to. People probably thought I was crazy or whatever. But none of that matters. But I had to do things, and I didn't look pretty doing it either. I didn't look cool. I know I looked like a fool in a lot of ways because I was anxious. I was stuttering. I was just trying to be brave. But fly got my eye. But I wanted to be there, and I was willing to look like a fool and enjoy it, even though I was tense and awkward in the moment. But after I left, the moment passed. It was like, yeah, that sucked, but I did it, and I'm going to do it again, and that's my attitude, the attitude that allowed me to continue pushing in that direction with a mindset that is to conquer and to overcome. And I continue to give thanks. And wherever my stress came from, that's the direction that I went towards, right? With confidence, with love, with peace in my heart and mind that I'm trying to pull in. And ultimately, all the storms of the symptoms, including paranoia, settled, right? And so that's where we're going, right? But we have to rise. We cannot continue to be where we are, being held down, being depressed, being hopeless and despair, and hope to overcome this. We must reach for and hold on to a different energy, something that's light, something that's of substance and that can energize our minds, energize our heart, our bodies, and lift us up, right? Because the way we are going, it's not going to do, right? And trying to wish for an easy way, wish for a cure, wish for all these things, there's no point. The cure is already here. You already have it. You have the capacity. That's the only reason why you're here in the first place, because your mind is what created this damn illusion. This is your mind. So you already have the capacity to create and destroy, right? You can create this thing, you can take it away. You don't know how you created it, but you did. I promise you that. 100%. What I mean is it came from your own mind. Your mind has a capacity, right? It creates all this illusion. It's through you, right? You didn't do it intentionally, but it worked through you. And recovering your mind can also work through you. The only difference is you cannot be unconscious. You cannot walk through this blindly, following emotions to reverse this. You have to intentionally, purposefully step in a way that can bring peace to your mind, right? That's the difference. You sleepwalk your way into this, but you got to wake up and consciously walk your way out of it. That's how it works, right? The way up is the way down. The way down is the way up. Anyway, I'm gonna law of opposites. So that's about it. Paranoia. and a host of other things. But hopefully, you'll be able to glean something from this. And yeah, I will talk to you again next time. I am out.